Ready to go.
Okay. Good morning, everybody, and welcome back. Today we're working on this Shindaiwa Swisher commercial weed eater. Now it's an older unit, and it looks like it's been sitting around a while, but I think we can save it. So let's get started. I already tried putting starter fluid in it and pulling the cord, and I got nothing. But it seems like it's got good compression. Feels nice and tight. So we're going to start off with the spark first, and see if we've got any spark for that matter. Plug her in, see what we've got. Now, I'm not sure how hard it's going to be to find parts for this guy because it's an oldie, but we have to hope for the best. Okay, we do see spark here. So next step we're going to do, since we didn't get anything at all when we put starter fluid in it, so we're going to pull the spark plug. So let's see what we got for a spark plug. My gosh, look how faded the letters are. I think this is the original plug for this thing. That might be a 20-year-old spark plug. And as you can see, the gap is huge, and it's pretty worn out. So I saw that coming and went and got a new spark plug for it before we got started. I think the carburetor is the same as a modern Echo, or a relatively modern Echo anyway. So with a little bit of luck, if we need to rebuild it, a kit from an Echo will work. Not much changes over the years for carburetors. We're still at that stage on this one, though, where we don't know if we're going to save it or not. I'm taking you from the very beginning on this one. When I looked up what plug it used, I figured, okay, it's an odd plug. It's a Champion 945. But if I can't use it in this one, I'll use it in the next one. It's not something we usually keep on hand. Okay, let's give it a pull like this, make sure she's turned on. Now we're not getting much of anything. So let's hit her with a little bit of starter fluid, see if it makes any difference. Okay, our carburetor linkage just jumped. I'm sure it was on before, so that's worth paying attention to. That might need attention. Can's empty. I tell you, it feels like it's trying to start. It's trying to kick anyway. And that's what we wanted to see. And that gives you 100 tests right there. It tells you you've got compression. It tells you the rings aren't shot. It tells you the cylinder is usable. It's a functional weed eater. So let's see what the fuel looks like. Yeah, it's got fuel, and the fuel looks oddly good. Okay, let's drain it out and see what we've got. See how bad it looks. Okay, the fuel. This is probably fuel that sat for a while, but had stabilizer in it. It's got a really odd milky color. And it wouldn't surprise me if it's not enough to run the machine. So the next step we're going to do is just try to put new gas in it and see what happens. But before we do that, we're going to check the fuel lines. Okay, the fuel lines are pumping correctly. That tells us the fuel filter is not restricted to the point of non-running. So let's pump her up and choke her down and see what happens. If we're lucky, it didn't take anything more than a spark plug for this bad boy. Well, we almost got a kick on it. Oh, so she's close, but she's not running. So next up, let's rebuild the carburetor. I'm going to pull you down and over here. That way you can see better. There you go. Another way to tell she's a little old is these hybrid flathead screws. You know, it's a flathead screw with a Phillip cut in it. They haven't done that in quite a while. Nobody's done that in quite a while. So these fuel lines are ugly, but they're functional for testing anyway. And notice we loosened the gas cap up before we took fuel lines off. And the reason you do that is it'll purge fuel back up through the line just by the pressure built up in the carburetor. Since we're not super big on these lines, as you can see, it just peeled apart. And I'll be darned if that isn't a modern Echo carburetor. It's the same carburetor, just a little old. So let's get her apart and clean her up. For this one, the vent line looks okay. So we're going to go ahead and replace the fuel and the return lines. So to do that, let's get them from the inside. We'll go ahead and cut them here. And it was the fuel line itself that I was most interested in. And there's one. The vent line's kind of little, so we're going to have to push it through. Let's see if that'll push it through. No, let's see if we can pull it back. There we go. Very nice, very nice, very nice. So let's push some new fuel lines through. Start where we stopped by tapering the vent line. I'm going to put our wire pulling tool through and bring it out here. This is definitely something that you need a little practice at. It's not easy after a while. This line feels a little big, so let's find something a little bit smaller. Let's see how you fit. Yep, you fit nice and snug. Anyway, as I was saying, it takes a little practice to get this to hook through, but you get good at it after a while, after you've done a few of them. Now push that out, pull it back through. Now we're going to pull it through until it's sitting just about like that. That's about right. And we're going to leave this just like this. Because remember, you can cut it shorter, but you can't cut it longer. So there's no reason to shorten it right this second. We'll do it when the carb goes on. And since there's a return line, you can just push it back in if you want. Okay, now we're going to take our fuel line, make sure she's long enough, and she is. I'm going to taper it, hook it on. Now this one I expect to fight us a little bit more on the other end. Ow, I hooked myself. No, it wasn't bad at all. So now we'll double this down, push it in, go get a Band-Aid. As it turned out, that looks kind of like, it actually looked more like an auger carburetor than an Echo, but it is similar to an Echo carburetor, but it's not the same. So we went and got another carburetor because getting the parts was much more difficult than getting a replacement. And I didn't want to wait 2 weeks for it. So we're going to use the old gasket, and always double check on the carburetor that your little pressure port lines up correctly. Because if it doesn't, no matter what you do, it's never going to run. As you can see, this one lines up nicely. So we'll get this ready. We'll put our fuel lines on. The one with, if yours has ridges, that's the incoming fuel. If it does not, it'll usually be the one near the primer, but not always. But do pay attention. We'll know for sure if we got it right once we prime it a little bit, because we'll be able to see the fuel flowing through the clear line, and it should be heading back towards the tank. Okay, that's good to go. That's good to go. Let's prime her up, and we'll watch right here. Up, up, up. Let's put some gas in it. Prime's better when it's actually got gas. Now, can's just about empty. So we'll give it what we got. That's more than enough for this. So now we're watching. And you can see the fuel heading back towards the tank. So let's set full choke. Make sure she's turned on and give her a run. Let's put the linkage on first. That's pretty easy. Just accelerate it a little bit on the carburetor. And then, this one's backwards. On most of the modern ones, it doesn't matter. Each side of this will have a slot for the little end to go into. On older ones, they don't always have that. As you can see, it popped right in. Okay, so let's try to give her a run. That's a good sign. Turn the choke off. And there we go. Sounds pretty good. Now, normally I'd take her off the bench and take her out into the yard and test it. But since the grass isn't growing right now, we have to wait until spring, I suppose. So, all you new people out there, go ahead and subscribe. It's free. And if you made it this far, you might as well. So, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.